All right, guys. So the Lightning and the Predators yesterday come up just short, just barely. They barely just come up short. Leaves us with our day 2-2. But we still had a solid plus money win, and the Kings come through for us at the end of the day. So right around a break-even day. Can't. Hey, it's gonna happen. But back at it again on Wednesday for you guys on this another small card that we got. So kicking it off, we have the Utah on the road to Toronto. They got a very late win against the Buffalo Sabres. So now the Utah have to travel. So they're playing back to back. Toronto comes in rested. They got just a solid win. I actually think the prices are right around where they should be, simply because Utah did have to travel, and they already started a road trip in Buffalo, had to travel to Toronto. So I think the price is right where it should be. Team for team, I think Utah's better, but this Toronto team, as much as I don't like them, simply because they got so much talent and they underplay so much, barely squeezing by in games. I think that's what they happen here, though. As much as I want Utah, I don't like the travel spot. I think Toronto's the side to play on. Just straight up money line minus 150. You guys saw how Toronto played against Pittsburgh the other day and just barely scraped by, but they had to come back to win that one. So, but still, until Toronto sees a dominant win, I wanted to play this one actually minus 1.5, but then I remember Toronto just doesn't win games dominantly. So I'm gonna have to go straight up money line Toronto for minus 150 to kick off our day. In match of the night, we have the St. Louis Blues on the road to Washington D.C. against the Capitals. St. Louis finally snaps a 7-game losing streak, and that was against the Oilers. So what a statement for St. Louis to make. Meanwhile, the Capitals are on a 4-game losing streak, so they definitely have the momentum against them. I just think one win with St. Louis is not going to convince me to change, but that's probably a fallen knife I should have. I claim myself to be good at catching falling knives. I just didn't catch it with St. Louis. But it was against the Oilers, so you were asking. A very tricky spot, but hey, a 7-game losing streak has to come to an end at some point. And I think for the Capitals, being on a 4-game losing streak has to come to an end at some point as well. I think they stopped the bleeding in this game. If you want, take your bet, minus 142 or the puck line for plus 175. I think either one or a mix of both is probably the right way to play it. I still can't put money on this St. Louis team. I'd need some bigger plus money. St. Louis this is underpriced, or this is overpriced. No, underpriced for them. Sorry, guys. I should be getting more plus money with St. Louis, and then I can manage to take them. But giving me only plus 122 against the Capitals, not worth it for me. I still think this Capitals team is head and shoulders a better team. Roster for roster, player for player. I think it's a lot better. I think it's even better than they've shown, and I think they're going to start picking up the pace. I kind of put them in that slow starter category. So I think they start stacking some wins getting towards the middle of the season, even towards the end. But in this spot specifically, me personally, I'm going for the minus 1.5. I think they stop the bleeding. I think the Capitals stop the bleeding, and I think they make a big statement against a team they should definitely blow out of the water. So I'll take the Capitals on the puck line for plus 175. I think this is the match right here that's going to absolutely piss everybody off. People's parlays are going to get busted because they're going to just throw in the Blue Jackets in there for a minus 112 price. And honestly, that's not wrong. I don't think that's wrong at all. You're getting the better price with the better team. The Blue Jackets have now stacked 4 wins back-to-back. Calgary is arguably one of the worst teams in the NHL, if not the worst team in the NHL. So, why are we getting this price? This is exactly my main question. As soon as I saw this, that's my main question. Why am I getting minus 108 with Calgary when I should be getting a crazy plus price because the Blue Jackets have been stacking wins back-to-back on the road or at home? So I think this is one of those trap type of games where they're going to give you a good price on the favorite on a good price on the better team, just for the worst team to end up beating you, or the worst team out of the two to end up beating you. So for me, just on price looking, price action, and being where teams actually are in standings, I'm gonna have to go with Calgary. I think it's a trap. This kind of reminds me, just like yesterday with the Winnipeg Jets and the LA Kings. Now, the Blue Jackets are significantly better. That's the only part that really has me kind of, kind of gun shy. But I'm going to roll with it. I'm going to roll with Calgary. I've seen these weird plays before. Obviously, they don't work 100% of the time. It's not a foolproof method. The Blue Jackets can still easily lose, and, us that overthinking about a trap end up losing. But I'm going to roll with it. I'm going to roll with Calgary at minus 108. They just snapped their losing streak, so they do have that going for them. But, hey, momentum can flip-flop back and forth in the NHL. That's definitely not a strange occurrence. Next game up, we have Chicago heading over to Vancouver. For me, even though, again, guys, I could be completely wrong, and we've been on the Canucks, we've been cashing with the Canucks for a couple games, I think now it's kind of we hop off the Canucks train. Consider this, if we were trading stocks, we're selling Vancouver high. Now we're getting minus 165 when we just got plus money against worse teams, or at least I would argue less competitive teams than the Blackhawks. The Predators, I don't consider them that competitive. Chicago themselves have smacked up St. Louis, and we got plus money when it was Canucks versus St. Louis a couple of games ago. So now to see them jump from plus money prices all the way to minus 165, it's probably time we hop off the Canucks train. We're going to roll with the Chicago Blackhawks at plus 140. The Chicago Blackhawks are on a slippery slope just a little bit. They got to start picking it up again, because now they're losing. They were keeping games close and winning. Lately, they were kind of losing games by more than one. So they are in a little bit of a slippery slope. So the price is warranted, the Canucks being that they've been able to stack some wins. But we're going to roll with it. We're going to roll with the Blackhawks at plus 140 for this game. Just kind of a sell high spot on the Canucks. We've been up with the Canucks. Now it's time we kind of just hop off and see if they can come through as a favorite. We'll see how they are as a big favorite. I haven't seen the Canucks be a big favorite for too many times so far. This is kind of the first one that I'm actually going to watch. So I'm going to pay more attention to this game probably, simply because I do want to see how the Canucks perform as a minus 165 favorite compared to the Blackhawks, who, well, they're usually plus money dogs anyway. But I do want to see how this team performs as a minus 165 favorite. I just don't want to sweat the game out being on that big of a favorite. On the board for you guys, we have the San Jose Sharks heading over to Seattle. Seattle been turning things around lately. They just beat a pretty bad team in the Chicago Blackhawks 3-1. I was on the Blackhawks that game. Maybe the Seattle Kraken's going to go on a run. I still don't think they should be minus 168 favorites. They've been on a significant homestand, so they do have that going for them. But haven't looked great on this significant homestand. Lost a couple games. They're, I think, right around 2-2. If not, they're 1-3 in this home trip, which is around 4 games. I think this is their last one before they go on the road. I could be wrong. Sharks, they're definitely improving, guys. They're improving compared to how they've been playing the last 2 seasons. So I think this price, normally if this was the same Sharks team, we'd get more plus money. But I think this is as good as it gets. I don't like that we're not getting a good price on that plus 1.5. So I'm going to assume that this game is also going to be close one way or the other. So definitely think this is going to be a 1-goal game. And I'd rather have the plus money in my back pocket as opposed to laying minus 168 with the Kraken. They got one solid win against Chicago, and it made that price absolutely balloon up. I get it. The Kraken might be the better team. I just don't like that price, especially if I'm going to be sweating out a 1-goal match. Haven't won too many matches by more than 1 goal. Just recently, this Chicago one, and I think it changed the price completely. But the plus money with the -1.5 actually stayed right around the same. I think I was getting plus 150 when they were up against Chicago. So, that's, to me, I just pay attention to little things like that, guys, and it ends up working for me. So the fact that we're not getting a good price with plus 1.5 just lets me off and kind of just lets me know that I'm going to assume that this is going to be a 1-goal match, especially with the way Seattle plays and how the Sharks get their wins on the road. If the Sharks get their wins on the road, it's usually not dominant. It's usually just squeezing by a 1-goal in overtime or something like that, 5-6, 3-4, some crazy game. Whenever the Sharks get like a 1-goal win on the road, these games end up being very, very exciting. So I think this one's worth watching just as a fan, but I am going to be on the plus money side of this. I don't want to sweat out a 1-goal game with -168 in my back pocket.